After making a marriage contract, Pei Ling coaxed me to open the meat. The next day, when I endured the pain and went to find him, I saw him throwing my underwear in front of my father. I won't marry such an unruly woman. I cannot break off the engagement, raise my concubine as a legitimate daughter, and marry on my behalf. It turned out that his sweetheart was my sister. Later, Pei Ling said to me, "You will be my concubine in the future, and you must not take Joe from your sister." I didn't say anything. He didn't know. After this incident, my father had betrothed me to a family in Jiangnan. 1. Guyangning is so casual, who knows who else she has slept with besides me? Pei Ling's words froze me in place. That day. Obviously he knows. You know, it's my first time. In the study, my father's face was as black as charcoal. The pink belly pocket made him disgraced. He said, "Now the marriage contract has been set." Pei Ling laughed, "I cannot break off the engagement. Lord Gu will raise his concubine as a legitimate daughter and marry on his behalf." My father froze in place. My eyes widened too. It turned out that the person he liked was not me. I recalled the absurdity of that day. He gently hugged me into his arms, leaving traces on my body little by little, and coaxed me to widen my eyes. He said, "Ning Ning, I'm so happy." It turned out that he was not happy to get me, but if the plan succeeds, you can finally get married with your sweetheart Gu Weiwei. Pei Ling continued, "Wei Wei Hui is a quality orchid heart, isn't she more suitable to be this legitimate daughter than Gu Yangning?" After a moment of silence, my father nodded and said, "Okay, I promise you." My heart hit rock bottom. The spring light is just right, but the soles of my feet are cold. I bit my lower lip, tried my best to restrain my trembling, and fled here in a hurry. 2. Pei Ling's words were like Ling Qi word by word, shattering all my dignity. I glanced at the beams on the roof and wondered if I should end there. But I don't have the face to see my mother. I curled up in the closet and cried for a long time. I don't understand. Pei Ling and I are also childhood sweethearts, and we have known each other for many years. He was present when we made the engagement and did not object. He even said to me, "Ning Ning, I can finally marry you." How could he plan to push me into hell while lingering with me? He said he loved me, but he was trying to calculate me. I cried until I couldn't shed a single drop. My father came. Let me kneel. I didn't ask a word and obediently knelt down in front of my mother's tablet. When I knelt down and almost fainted, I heard the voice of the outsider's love for the concubine. The woman was coquettish. The man asked for credit with tenderness. The voice was particularly familiar. The ancestral hall is located in a remote area, and the vicinity happens to be the place where they have a tryst. I saw Pei Ling hugging Gu Weiwei into his arms. He rubbed her into his body, as if he were about to rub it into his body. His lips fell on Gu Weiwei's lips, and he kissed them inseparably. Gu Weiwei gasped and tried to untie his belt, but he stopped her. "Weiwei, I can't possess you so hastily, wait for us to get married, and leave it until the night of the candles in our bridal chamber." I watched blankly. It turns out that he really likes it, and will be so careful. He would be afraid of ruining her reputation. The tears I thought were shed fell again before I knew it. I closed my eyes and looked at my mother's tablet. "Mother, it's my daughter who is too stupid and embarrassing you. My daughter won't like Pei Ling anymore." 3. Pei Ling appeared a few days later. He stuffed a pair of medicines into my hand. "It is a set of avoidance drugs." He said, "You haven't passed the door yet, if you get a child, you will be looked down upon." These words actually sound like they are thinking about me. I was fascinated for a moment. Seeing that I didn't answer, Pei Ling frowned, "You shouldn't. Isn't it already there?" I raised my eyes to look at him, looked at the eyebrows and eyes that once made me extremely happy, and said tentatively, "If so, what if I really have it?" Pei Ling said without hesitation, If you have it, change it to a pair of abortion medicine. How can you give birth to a child before your mistress? I looked at him expressionlessly. As soon as these words came out, he seemed to realize that he had made me a concubine from his wife. He smiled, his face softened a little. Ning Ning, don't worry, you are always different in my heart. What is the difference between a wife and a concubine? It is enough for you and me to have each other in our hearts. I couldn't help but ask, since there is no difference, why do you have to design this to make me a concubine, and let Gu Weiwei be my wife? Hearing this, Pei Ling's face darkened. What are you talking about? You have such a small belly before you enter the door. If you really let you be your wife, wouldn't my back house be unpeaceful? Chicken intestines with a small belly. I was taught to be virtuous, and the only indulgence I had was with him. I have never objected to him taking a concubine, but he himself wants to show his loyalty to me, and when he coaxes me, he says that he wants to be with me for the rest of his life. When he held me in his arms, he said, wishing to see me jealous. At that time, I thought I had met someone who really loved me. Right now, it was like a basin of cold water pouring me down. I ignored Pei Ling, turned around and left. He was still behind me and said, Gu Yongning, if you are like this, no one will want you except me. He was wrong. I have a good reputation and a clean and decent family background. Before him, many sons from prominent families had come to the door. Not to mention this, there are also several brothers in my mother's family who have come to kiss me. It's me who thinks, Pei Ling's childhood sweetheart, knowing the roots. He will definitely not treat me poorly in the future. It's all because I don't know people clearly. My father called me over and gave me a roster of several sons. I took it and looked at it a few times, but they were not from the capital. The family background is also much worse than mine. The father sighed and said, we are at fault first. I will buy you more dowry, and you will serve your husband's family well in the future. My father is in a high position, and he will definitely not be led by Pei Ling. I knelt down and kowtowed to him. My husband's family finally settled on a family far away in Jiangnan. 4. Night. I washed myself for a long time. It's like taking off a layer of skin. After washing up, I went to kneel in front of my mother's tablet again. It seems that this can save some face when I see my mother. How important is a woman's chastity? If it weren't for my father stabilizing Pei Ling and promising to marry his concubine to him, Pei Ling would have spread the matter. I would have drowned in the spit of this world. But even so, my father was already disappointed in me. I once passed by the place where the building was full of red sleeves. Men come in and out, not ashamed but proud. Why is it despicable to fall on a woman? I couldn't figure it out, but I didn't have the strength to think about it anymore. The memory of that night swept over again. Pei Ling's fiery body and touching love words seemed to still linger in my ears. I almost threw up. At this moment, someone climbed over the wall. Pei Ling was dressed in white and stood in front of me in a chic manner. He hugged me into his arms and said domineeringly, Ning Ning, why did you leave me today and leave? Do you know how much I miss you? I know I have something important to say today, don't be angry. He apologized, but his hand dishonestly got into my collar. He said he missed me very much. I don't know, is he thinking about me, or is he trying to be with me? I subconsciously refused and struggled. Pei Ling, my mother's tablet is there. Why are you still shy? It's not that I haven't slept. I pushed him away hard. Pei Ling was pushed by me. After he stood still, shame flashed on his face. Gu Yongning, what are you doing? I looked at him stubbornly and said, Pei Ling, please leave. Pei Ling's voice became cold. Gu Yongning, I came to you because I like you. Like? Is this a sign that he likes me? Fortunately, I am not so easily deceived anymore. I smelled the incense on Pei Ling's body. It is the kind commonly used by concubines. He was afraid that he had just finished his tryst with Gu Weiwei and was reluctant to touch her, so he came to me. So what am I? I was so angry that I wanted to slap him. Anyway, you have to marry me in the future, is it so much different? You have to remember that you will be my concubine in the future, and you must no longer take Xiao to your concubine as a legitimate daughter. I shook my head and said, I won't marry you. My voice fell. Pei Ling was stunned for a moment. 5. Pei Ling sneered, don't talk nonsense. You have given me your chastity, who else can you marry besides marrying me? He said this confidently, but there was still a hint of panic in his eyes. I ignored him and knelt straight in front of my mother's tablet. He kicked the futon away and tried to pull my clothes again, getting angry at me. But when he saw the tears on my face, he stopped. After the death of his mother, his father did not remarry, and there were only a few concubines in the house. My family's upbringing grandmother was specially asked by my father from the palace. The upbringing has always been strict, telling me that women should not cry. So, I have never cried in front of Pei Ling. In the past, Pei Ling and I made an appointment to attend the meeting. We are doll parents since we were children, and we were childhood sweethearts, so we walked together to enjoy the flowers and listen to music, and no one said anything. On the contrary, I also have to praise a young man's talent and beauty. But not long after meeting several times, I saw Gu Weiwei hurriedly walking by with pear blossoms in the rain. Pei Ling's eyes fell on her. Later, he found various reasons to leave. Looking back now, they should have secretly communicated a long time ago, but I don't know. At this moment, it was the first time I cried in front of Pei Ling. Crying silently, I wish I could hide myself. I didn't want to be seen by him, but the tears were not under my control. I didn't want to show weakness, but when humiliation and embarrassment came to my heart, I still let tears fall in an instant. Pei Ling was at a loss for a while. He came to wipe my tears awkwardly and said, Hey, Ning Ning, don't cry. If someone sees you, you might say how I bullied you. I dodged his hand, not wanting to be touched by him. He wanted to continue to coax me, but suddenly heard someone outside calling, Young Master Pei. That was the maid next to Gu Weiwei. It must have been Gu Weiwei who asked her to come to Pei Ling. Pei Ling withdrew his hand and turned to leave without hesitation. When he walked out of the ancestral hall door, he remembered me and turned around and added, Ning Ning, you are in a bad mood today, you are too impulsive. I'll leave first, calm down and calm down. Shortly after he left, the maid next to me came to report his whereabouts to me. Gu Weiwei knew that Pei Ling had come to me to vent her anger, and she had a sense of crisis in her heart, so she called the person back on the grounds of a headache. At this moment, Pei Ling was standing in front of Gu Weiwei's bed to accompany her to sleep. The maid reported everything, and even said clearly who the servant who guarded Pei Ling's door was. The upbringing from the palace taught me a lot. But I trust Pei Ling and think that we have a deep friendship. I also pity Gu Weiwei, my roommate. Why must I take up arms? So I never used the back house method on them. But they have now reached this point. I will definitely give them a big gift before I get married. 6. The family I want to marry, surnamed Yuan, sent a letter. Said the second son of the Yuan family came to the capital. Although the marriage contract is the order of the parents, the words of the matchmaker can be blind, and dumb marriage is ultimately inappropriate. That's the principle. Many people in the capital will let the girls' families hide behind the curtain to inspect the men. My father arranged for me and the young Master Yuan to meet at the flower viewing banquet. The maid washed and dressed me up, and my pale lips were dyed with red lipstick. When I went out, I met Gu Weiwei on a narrow road. Her previous low-profile appearance is gone. She looked me up and down and said, Sister, are you dressed like this? You are no longer innocent, why are you embarrassed to dress up? As soon as she finished speaking, the maid next to me winked, and the servant closed the courtyard door. The two maids beside Gu Weiwei were pressed to the ground and gagged. Gu Yongning, what are you doing? I glanced at her and didn't answer. Her maid was quickly dragged down. You can't even tolerate the maids. Could it be that they are jealous that they are different from you, and their chastity is still there? You are so vicious, aren't you afraid that I will tell my father and tell Brother Alling? I glanced at her coldly. It was you who harmed her. I'm just defending the family's reputation. After that, I walked away, leaving Gu Weiwei behind me and stomping her feet angrily. My counterattack has just begun. Soon. I arrived at the banquet. After 3 rounds of banquets, I haven't seen that Yuan Gongzi yet. I first met an uninvited guest. Pei Ling stood in front of me and said with a calm face, "Apologize to Wei Wei. The last time we met was a month ago." After that unpleasant time, Pei Ling asked me to calm down, and never came to me again. He waited for me to bow his head first. Before, every time there was some friction and dispute, I was never angry. Even if he found a reason for Gu Weiwei to leave me halfway, I never blushed at him. He thought I was so good-tempered and never coaxed me. I later heard the maid say a few times what he looked like when he and Gu Weiwei got along. He always took care of her mood, and even spoke softer than when he was with me. Like it or not, it's always different. Pei Ling saw that I didn't answer for a while, and his face became even more ugly. He scolded me, "You are like this now, how dare you show Weiwei's face? It seems that the lesson I gave you is not enough, so you don't know how to respect Weiwei." Gu Weiwei hid behind Pei Ling, and looked at me proudly. I was about to refute when suddenly a male voice came from behind me. "The capital is really a big city, there are no wonders. I can still see that I want to teach other girls who have not left the cabinet." 7. Pei Ling looked at the person who came and said angrily, "Who are you?" "I'm talking to my uncle concubine, what does it have to do with you?" The person who came was a young man in white. I saw the jade pendant with the Yuan family crest pattern on his waist. He is actually the son of the Yuan family, Yuan Angshu. After listening to Pei Ling's words, he raised his eyebrows. "Your concubine's room?" Pei Ling raised his chin and said arrogantly, "Exactly." Yuan Angshu laughed. "The wife and mistress pay attention to the 3 books and 6 rights, and the words of the marriage contract. I've never heard of it, and there is also a saying that the concubine's room has not passed the door." Yuan Angshu lengthened his tone, and many people looked here. Gu Weiwei pulled the corner of Pei Ling's clothes in a panic. "Their tricks are not visible. If someone knew in advance, my family wouldn't have to be threatened by Pei Ling to save face." Pei Ling couldn't refute and was speechless. He glared at me before leaving. "Gu Yongning, what is our relationship? You know it yourself, don't be shameless." After he left, I looked at Yuan Angshu and felt a little apprehensive. He bowed to me and called Miss Gu. The Jiangnan gentry are known for their elegance. He is not far behind, handsome, and a rare beautiful man. In the following time, he toured with me to enjoy the flowers. He was extraordinary, and when he talked to me about those precious flowers, he was the first to say. But I had something hidden in my heart, and I was a little absent-minded. Yuan Angshu seemed to see it. He pointed to a Zhao powder and said, "Come to think of it, Miss Gu may not believe it. I didn't like to read when I was young, and I learned juggling with street performers, raised birds and planted peonies. When I planted peonies, I spent a lot of energy, but none of them bloomed. I was so angry that I wanted to smash the pot of peonies, but when I looked closely, I saw that the flower branches were cut off. It turns out that my brother picked my flowers to please the woman he liked. I don't know what he meant." He looked at me and smiled. "Do you think I blame my brother for stealing my peonies, or do I blame the peonies for not blooming more?" When he said this, he was looking at the peony seriously, and did not look at me. I was stunned for a moment, and then I understood what he meant. I couldn't help but laugh. Such a simple logic has made me confused and trapped for a long time. It's never me who is at fault. 8. I have no contact with Pei Ling at all. He wanted to see me, but the gatekeeper who had secretly let Pei Ling go before had already been dealt with by me. He wanted to climb over the wall, so I asked my father to strengthen the patrol of the servants. I didn't reply to the letter Pei Ling gave me, and I gave it to the new maid next to Gu Weiwei. Gu Weiwei chose a new maid, but she didn't know that they were all my people. Gu Weiwei read the letters. At first, she was calm. After all, it was all Pei Ling's threatening words. I want to have a private meeting with him, otherwise he will punish me. Later, Pei Ling never saw me, although he was still threatening me, but the longing revealed between the words could not be hidden. He asked his servants to convey the message. Miss Gu, my young master said that he has already reached this point, and he has become so angry in a low voice, asking how long will you still be angry. I closed the door. One day, in the middle of the night, Gu Weiwei finally couldn't help it and sneaked out the door. It was close to early morning that she came back lately, with the laziness and pride of being moistened in the corners of her eyes. I saw the contempt flashing in the eyes of the servant who reported this to me. Everything was planned according to my ideas. But I can't be happy. Gu Weiwei's today is not my past. The difference is just that Pei Ling likes her and doesn't like me. The next day, Gu Weiwei came to me to show off her martial prowess. She deliberately showed me the ambiguous marks on her collarbone. She stroked her stomach and said, "Brother Aling said, if I have it, I will give birth. He will marry me as soon as possible, this is our eldest son." Pei Ling seemed to be satisfied and no longer had time to write to me frequently. In his last letter to me, there was only one sentence. "Gu Yongning, don't regret it." Before I could regret it, I was asked by Yuan Engshu to swim in the lake. Not an ordinary lake tour. He is not an ordinary stereotypical man who follows the rules and believes that women should not show their faces. He took me fishing to catch fish and shrimp in the big lake. He said that the fish and shrimp in the capital are larger than those in Jiangnan. The Jiangnan ones didn't grow up much before they were fished up and eaten. But the fish and shrimp in the capital are not as delicious as in Jiangnan. He seemed to be inadvertently and naturally, "When you arrive in Jiangnan, I will take you to eat." After saying that, he added, "If you like it, eat it every day." He said this with an ordinary expression, as comfortable as before. But I still saw his fingers trembling slightly with tension. I laughed and deliberately didn't speak. After a while, he responded, "Okay. You have to talk." Yuan Engshu turned his head to look at me, his eyes as bright as the rising sun and like stars. The wedding date is set for 2 months later. Although it was a bit rushed, it was all in time. Many things have been prepared a long time ago. But at that time, it was to marry Pei Ling. But the red hijab, I am ready to embroider one again. I went to buy new red and gold threads, as well as the best pearls and chalcedony. This matter could not be hidden, and soon reached Pei Ling's ears. When I was shopping again, he rushed over menacingly. 9. Pei Ling was just about to question me when he saw the red cloth in my hand. "I can't use red in my room," he sneered and said highly. "Gu Yongning, you are so tough on the surface, you don't even see me, but behind your back, you are so anxious to marry me. But you seem to have made a mistake in color, you will be unhappy like this." I sighed in my heart, not knowing if I should have a showdown with him now. Yuan Engshu's gung post, and I have already been exchanged. Most of the Yuan family's bride price has already arrived. Boxes of precious things are now parked in my yard. Yuan Engshu returned to Jiangnan to prepare for marriage. Just wait for the auspicious day of the zodiac to marry me. Seeing that I didn't answer, Pei Ling seemed to misunderstand what I meant. He thought I insisted on wearing red, and said distressfully, "You have to wear this red hijab. That's it, just follow you, let's hold another wedding secretly behind closed doors." His helpless and pampered look made me appetizing. "Ning Ning, am I good enough for you?" But at this moment, Gu Weiwei appeared. In the blink of an eye, her eyes turned red. "Brother Aling, didn't you say that I am your wife? My little mother has been a concubine all her life, unlike my sister's mother, who has been a wife all her life, and she is also my father's favorite woman when she dies." Pei Ling quickly explained. He skillfully hugged her into his arms. He just gave me a ceremony, not really to marry me. Gu Weiwei confirmed, really. You didn't lie to me. Pei Ling said again and again, really, when did I lie to you? If you are unhappy, I won't hold a ceremony with Gu Yongning, just let her recognize her identity. The concubine's room is the concubine's room. I saw Gu Weiwei's eyes flashing with pride, and she looked at me defiantly. I only feel sad. She tried her best just to get Pei Ling's favor. And Pei Ling, from beginning to end, was enjoying everything. Watching two women who are connected by blood turn against him, and pull up their heads. I didn't want to look at it anymore, so I walked away, but Pei Ling stopped me. Gu Yongning, don't you say something to Wei Wei? I was a little confused. What did you say? Pei Ling hated iron and steel. You will be my concubine in the future. Wei Wei is the mistress and your master. Don't you admit your mistakes? If you didn't have to wear red, how could I agree to your unreasonable request and make Wei Wei so sad? You are so arrogant and domineering now. How will you be my concubine in the future? I couldn't take it any more and sneered. Pei Ling, I won't be a concubine for you. Pei Ling was stunned. He didn't believe it at all, saying, what nonsense are you talking about? Who else can you marry besides me? I sighed. It seems that if you want to put the marriage certificate in front of Pei Ling will believe it. Talking to him again is just a waste of words. But just as I was leaving, Pei Ling pushed Gu Weiwei away and came over and grabbed my wrist. The maid next to me wanted to step forward but was kicked away by Pei Ling. Where are you going? You want to leave before you admit your mistake. As I struggled, someone punched Pei Ling directly in the face. Yuan Engshu, who was supposed to be in Jiangnan, appeared next to me. Pei Ling recognized him at once. It was the man who made him deflated last time. He roared, "Get out! What does it have to do with you?" Yuan Engshu stood in front of me and said, Miss Gu is my wife who has not passed the door. What do you think this has to do with me? His words were clear and shot into Pei Ling's ears. For an instant Pei Ling stayed in place. 10. Pei Ling looked at me and wanted to confirm with me. But I didn't bother to look at him, and I only cared about whether Yuan Engshu's hand hurt. Pei Ling's face turned white. What's going on? Gu Yongning, you said you would marry me, how can you go back on your word? He can even put the basin on my head. I said, aren't you the one who went against your word? We agreed to get married, but you designed me to marry Gu Weiwei. I really misjudged you. Pei Ling pursed his lips and said, don't say it's so ugly, okay? It's just a title, I married you too. At this point, he seemed to think of something. He looked at Yuan Engshu and said, do you really want to marry Gu Yongning? You know, she has been with me for a long time. Before Pei Ling finished speaking, he was punched in the face again. Yuan Engshu obviously learned boxing and foot kung fu. As a noble son, Pei Ling was not his opponent at all. Do you dare to insult my fiancé's reputation again? Don't blame my men for being merciless. Pei Ling fell to the ground. Gu Weiwei hurried over to help him. I left side by side with Yuan Engshu. Just as he was walking through the threshold, Pei Ling spoke. Gu Yongning, you betrayed me. I was ashamed of my previous liking for him. This time, Yuan Engshu came in advance. He couldn't wait to come to the capital and stay in the best restaurant. Just wait a few days to get married to me. In the last days before marriage. Peaceful and peaceful. Pei Ling seemed to have completely disappeared. I won't come to Gu Weiwei either. Gu Weiwei passed by my yard several times, and a cold light of resentment flashed in her eyes. She seemed to think that I had hit Pei Ling too hard that day. The letter she wrote to Pei Ling sank into the sea. But she misunderstood, Pei Ling didn't show up because she was too busy to take care of herself. 11. The day I got married. Pei Ling, who had never shown his face, also stood in the crowd. He stared at me for a moment. Obviously the weather was completely warm, but he was dressed tightly. He wanted to come in, but was stopped by the servants of the Yuan family. He said he was the young master of the Pei family. But the servants of the Yuan family only recognized the invitation. When he pushed, Pei Ling's sleeves were torn, revealing the speckled red marks on his body. Like a plum blossom. This is the big gift I gave him. The time he coaxed me to eat meat was not at all like the first time I did this kind of thing. I sent someone to investigate and learned that he was also a frequent visitor to the flower house. He used to tell me that his friends only went and he never went. Occasionally I went there and just drank there. This is not the case. I sent someone to find a prostitute who was infected with dirty diseases, gave her a lot of silver, put on makeup to cover her, and arranged for her to meet Pei Ling. A few times later, sure enough, Pei Ling was also recruited. As those traces were revealed, everyone exclaimed. Someone recognized Pei Ling and called out his name. Pei Ling left in despair. After the ceremony here, Yuan Fengshu and I shook hands and got on the boat. This trip to Jiangnan should be a new beginning. The river flows slowly, reflecting my shadow. The small bridge flows with flowing water, and the misty rain is hazy. Yuan Fengshu took me to catch fish and shrimp, so unhappy. He is the second son of the Yuan family, and he also has a capable eldest brother. There is a pampered brother below. Although there is less love from parents, there is a lot more freedom. Life is plain and leisurely. A few months later, he returned. After visiting his father, he heard that Gu Weiwei had married into the Pei family. It turned out that Pei Ling boasted that he was true love for Gu Weiwei, but he did not dare to tell the Pei family's parents. After Pei Ling fell ill, the Pei family came to apologize. They didn't want to break off the engagement, and promised that they would treat me well after marriage and treat me as their own daughter. But on the marriage certificate signed by Pei Ling that his father took out, his name had been changed to Gu Weiwei. Of course, my family's 2 old marriage certificates have long been ruined. Pei Ling stole the Pei family's share, and it had already been torn up. The Pei family's parents looked at the names on the marriage certificate and felt incredulous. How can such a concubine marry our Linger? But even if she is a concubine, she doesn't want to marry a man who has a dirty disease. Gu Weiwei cried and knelt outside her father's study, begging him to find a way. But this is a marriage she planned herself. After the Pei family's parents went back, they showed Pei Lingxiang many women. But on the day I got married, many people came, and many people learned about Pei Ling. Come and go, there is no satisfaction. In contrast, Gu Weiwei actually has the best family background. The Pei family's parents wanted to recognize this marriage. But they think my family is at fault and Gu Weiwei's dowry should be more. My father ignored it. Gu Weiwei adopted into my mother's name, and became a legitimate daughter, and it was over. Gu Weiwei and Pei Ling's wedding, many people went with the mood of watching jokes. The young master of the Pei family himself changed his legitimate daughter to a concubine, and he got that kind of disease again. Later, Gu Weiwei came back once. She was in poor shape. She wasn't sure if she had contracted the disease too. She didn't want to get close to Pei Ling, but he forced her to have sex. I contacted my former parenting grandmother, and got the secret method to make a man lose his fertility. I sent someone to pass this secret method to Gu Weiwei. Sisterhood has long been broken, and this is the last thing I can do for her. Yuan Engshu listened to all this. I asked him, would he think I was a woman? Yuan Engshu smiled and said, human nature is inherently complicated, and under the law, you can do whatever you want. Don't regret it after 100 years, it's enough. I nodded. I know that everything Gu Weiwei does is for her own purposes, but she should not have calculated me. When I was a child, the scene of the little Gu Weiwei came to play with me flashed in front of my eyes. She was wearing a pink dress, timidly calling my sister and giving me the sugar. But later the parenting lady came and didn't allow me to eat this candy. My life is also filled with learning this and that, and I don't have time to play with Gu Weiwei. Sisterhood is unconsciously divided. By the time I realized it, she had become like this. Yuan Angshu and I stayed in Beijing for a few more days. A few days later, he set off again and returned to Jiangnan. Yuan Angshu took my hand and said, "Madam, let's go home." Many years later, I took root in Jiangnan and walked through every inch of Jiangnan. When I was 100 years old, Jiangnan opened the first girls' school, which was run by my granddaughter. She taught women that they should not be ashamed of losing their virginity. Suppress people for chastity. On the occasion of leaving, I seemed to hear Gu Weiwei's voice. She said to me, "Sister, I'm sorry." She was still the same as when she was a child, wearing a little pink skirt. Back then, she killed her husband and fled, and I never heard from her again. I closed my eyes completely. Jiangnan is good. The scenery is good and so are the people. End of full text.